Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Happy anniversary to all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Welcome back to an all-new episode of PR from the Heart's Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. To be precise, we have not only reached episode number 24, that is the 24th trolley stop here on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, but it is also the 2-year anniversary celebration of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. I am John Massalonis here with PR from the Heart, along with Little Forrest. He's our official mascot. He's an official ball of love and so much more. Joining us, as always, every episode, every trolley stop of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast over these past 2 years. We're 50 books, give or take, on in, and we're heading on into episode number 24 and beyond. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely on the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which just this past week celebrated its 55th anniversary. Of course, from the first episode of the national broadcast, that is the first episode on public broadcasting. You can check out David Newell with one of our favorite neighbors, Shannon McNeil, on KGET 17's Studio 17. That is now available at PR from the Heart's social media platforms. Joining us, as always, the beloved Mr. McFeely on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We know him and we love him as David Newell. David, happy anniversary to you. February is the anniversary of so much. It's the anniversary of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It's the anniversary of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast as well.
Mm-hmm. So we're celebrating 2 anniversaries, all related in some way to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, right? That is very true. And it's the anniversary of Little Forrest coming into your couple weeks anniversary, I guess, right? His arrival.
This is, I believe, I have now, yes, you are correct. It has actually been a little over 3 months since Little Forrest has come into my life. He is now ballooned in a positive way up to, I believe, 10.4 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. That was his last weight at the vet. So I remember when I first got him, I think it was 2.7 pounds and he could fit in my hand. But Little Forrest, of course, is excited for episode number 24 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. We know that all of you are excited as well, too, because we are going to be placing the spotlight on Black History Month here at PR from the Heart. So it's not only the anniversary of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, it's not only the anniversary of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, but each and every February is the time that we place the spotlight on African Americans all across the country and throughout the years who have done wonderful and amazing things to be able to make our society better as a whole, especially for new generations of children. And during this special episode of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, our 2nd-year anniversary celebration, we are doing our part to not only support African American children, but children from all races, faiths, ages, ethnicities, to be able to remember that you can achieve your dreams and that you are not too young to start fulfilling your mission and your purpose. So today, this week on episode number 24, the 2-year anniversary celebration of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, we're going to be placing the spotlight on Christelle Patterson's Inspired to Be series, the first book in her series and the most recent, the newest release in her series, 1 Flip, 2 Flip, 3 Flip, 4, and Too Young to What. This is off of a fantastic national book tour that Christelle has been in the midst of. Just this past Saturday, she had a sold-out event at Barnes & Noble in the Encinitas area here in San Diego. Before Little Forrest and myself, and before David, before we officially continue, we, of course, want to be able to pledge our support, as we do each and every month, for our favorite friends and neighbors at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. Now, you might be wondering, David and John, I've heard of Reading is Fundamental before, but could you tell me a little bit more about them? Well, of course, David still hangs his hat in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Reading is Fundamental is the largest national non-for-profit children's literacy organization that provides children's books, developmental resources, and literacy tools for children that come from low-income families all across the country. And again, with David still hanging his hat in Pittsburgh, we, of course, pledge our support for the Pittsburgh chapter of Reading is Fundamental. Did you know alone that last year they gave over 100,000 children's books to over 23,000 children in need? So we here at PR from the Heart each and every month are privileged and honored to pledge our support to our friends and neighbors at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. We encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, to be able to pledge your support as you feel guided to do so as well. You can head on over to Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh's official website, rifpittsburgh.org/donate. Remember, no donation is too large, no donation is too small. We've included the link below in the description below to be able to make things easier. And of course, if this message that we are already sharing about anniversaries, as well as Black History Month, if these messages are starting to uplift your spirits, if you are doing your part to be able to say, you know what, I now have some additional resources of care that I can give to my little one or to my grandchildren, or if you're an educator, to the students that are in your life, if anything, you just want to be able to make someone's day better, to give them a little bit of a speedy delivery, you can subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel, and to subscribe, indeed, and share this very special trolley stop. That is episode number 24, the 2-year anniversary edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast that you are now enjoying right now. And while at it, you can kind of look back and see how David and I have grown over the past 2 years. You can go back to episode 1 from 2 years ago all the way to episode number 23 and be able to enjoy, again, the near 50 reviews, the 50 deliveries that David and I have made on some of the most heartfelt and much needed children's books for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. So little Forrest is fully ready. He's a little talker, but he's still excited at the same point in time. So David, we are going to be starting off, as we always do, at the top, the forefront, and the onset. We are going to be starting off with the first installment in Christelle Patterson's Inspired to Be series, 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4. It has a little bit of a gymnastics feel to it.
Yes, it does.
In many ways, but the book is, you know, whether you are in any form of an athlete, or if you want to be able to achieve anything in life as a child or as an adult, this book is great because it really helps readers be able to connect to that productivity sector in your mind and your heart, and continuously setting your goals, doing what you need to do, work hard to be able to achieve your dreams. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. So let's start off by diving into the pages of Christelle Patterson's 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4.
Flip 4. Well, it reminds me of a Mr. Rogers song. He wrote a song, You've Got to Do It.
I remember that vividly.
And if you want to ride a bicycle and ride it straight and tall, you simply can't sit and look at it because it won't move at all. But it's you who have to try it, and it's you who have to fall. And it's perseverance and determination. And in a way, that's what 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4 is. It's a story of Ruby. And Ruby, I would think, is around 9 or 10, maybe, as the book opens. And on the first page, there's an illustration of Ruby resting on the sofa, and it's raining outside. What's she to do? But she can't sit still. She has so much energy. So here on the book, it goes, so 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4 begins. From sofa to floor, flipping all around the house, to the left, to the right. And the illustrations show Ruby going through all of her flipping, getting at her energy, and Ruby's sister notices that Ruby is having so much fun. She doesn't realize that it stopped raining outside, and now there is plenty of sun. Mm-hmm. So outside Ruby goes, but the story is written in verse, which I think the verse lends itself to the story, the rhyming words matches Ruby's energy. I think it really helps this bring the story along.
I agree.
While the sun is out and Ruby goes out and she goes to the park to play. And here we go again. She goes 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4, and that's repeated throughout the book. And she's listening to the beat of a song. Ruby seems to flip all day long, and Ruby's mom is looks at all this flipping going on and decides what Ruby needs is a gymnastic class. So a few months later, Ruby attends her first gymnastic class, and she's ready to learn a lot. Here we go again. 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4 is repeated in the text, and the text illustrations show Ruby practicing cartwheels and handstands, flips and splits. She's training hard to make sure she gets them right. And that's an important statement too, that it just doesn't happen with 1 flip. You don't perfect a flip one time. It takes a lot of hard work. And that's what the book continually reinforces. It takes hard work and perseverance to do something right. Well, and her coaches remarked that Ruby is so good, she's going to be a champion. Well, a few years later, she's been training with the best coaches and she's gotten so much better. And now the Olympics is her goal. And again, here we go. 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4. Ruby has dreams of winning the gold medal at the Olympics. And she flips to the left and she flips to the right. She flies like an eagle. And she so impressed are the judges. They all agree that her skills are unique. She is a winner. And this is all taking us through the 1 flip, 2 flips, and illustrations show her going through her flips and her routines. But the last words in the book are, with her talent and drive, she knew it in her heart, her dreams would come true. And in the last sentence that Crystal writes in her book, Crystal says, now to the reader, how about you? And this is the first book, you said, of Crystal Patterson's series, right? And she really sets off the tone in this book that's followed up by the other book we'll be talking about. Oh, yes, and I wrote something down that Crystal writes in the prologue of the book that she hopes the book inspires children to be committed to their goals, to dream big, and to pursue something you love. That's a very good goal, I think, to have that read to children. You know, everybody has different goals. Everybody has a different goal to pursue. Some Olympics, some just getting on the baseball team, but it's still a goal, so pursue it. But it does take work and practice. That is what Ruby does in the story. A wonderful lesson, as you said earlier, not only for young children, but also for adults. You know, it's never too late to pursue a dream.
Right.
But it does take hard work and commitment. And going back to quote Fred Rogers' song, you've got to do it.
Yes.
You've got to do it. You've got to practice. And in the book, I think the book is probably designed for a child, elementary child, in the 4th grade on up, because that's when they're getting more into gymnastics. What I like about the book is the repetition of 1 flip, 2, because in a way it's saying you have to practice, you have to work hard, and you have to be diligent.
Agreed.
If you want to ride a bicycle, you've got to ride it straight and tall, because it won't move at all.
It's actually interesting that you mentioned the repetition, because just this past Saturday when Crystal was here in San Diego on tour, there was this little baby. And she probably wasn't like, she was probably a little bit older. She wasn't like, newly born, but she was very young. And she was into the 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4. And Crystal was making, like the hand motion symbolizing like 1 flip, 2 flip. And the little ones, so this is where one of the things that's powerful about 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4 is that, you know, whether you are young or young at heart, there's obviously a target range, you know, for the books.
Yes.
It's all children's books, but, you know, if a little one that you have hasn't even started reading yet, but they can really be captured by the illustrations. And we do want to give some credit, some kudos out to Brianna Young, who is Christelle's official illustrator for all of her books in the Inspired to Be series. And they're very visual. They're very visual. They're very captivating. Yes. So even again, you know, a little one who hasn't necessarily even started off her reading journey just yet will be able to get that. One of the other things to be able to mention is that Christelle's books are all inspired by the lives of real people. So this particular book was actually inspired by Gabby Douglas, who of course was the well-known gymnast who became the first African-American to win the individual all-around event at the 2012 Summer Olympics when she was only 16 years old. This also takes me back to the time on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Whenever Fred would bring in celebrities that would be well-known celebrities, in fact, I believe it was Peggy Fleming, if I'm not mistaken, that Mr. Rogers and that your whole program brought onto the show, and Fred was learning how to ice skate.
Right.
So there is this sort of similar essence and energy where it's a matter of, you know, kids can really connect with famous people, celebrities, because there's something about that where little ones, you know, I remember growing up, you know, during, you know, when I was a child, everyone wanted to be like Mike, you know, Michael Jordan, right? And for kids today, it's LeBron James, right? He is the Michael Jordan of this generation, so to speak. So there is something about that connectivity factor to when little ones see, you know, a well-known athlete or celebrity, and it reminds them, again, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yes, there's always I think it's individual goals. Not everybody is going to be Peggy Fleming, who's an ice skater, but I think what Crystal is saying is if you want to be good at something, ice skating, bicycle riding, whatever, it takes that discipline. And to learn how to ride a bike. Again, the words of Mr. Rogers, it doesn't happen by itself. It's not magic. It's you've got to do it.
Do it.
And that's what runs through both of these books, I think. It takes that person.
Agreed. And one of the other things to be able to add about Christelle and her work is the fact that one of her primary goals is to be able to spread Black inspiration to all children. So it would be very easy to just, you know, take a look at 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4, or to take a look at the next book that we'll be showcasing momentarily, Too Young to What, and just say, okay, these are meant for African-American children. And being able to see from educators that we met over the weekend, this past weekend in San Diego, parents, grandparents who were not African-American, who really saw, and this is just, again, a small encapsulation of those across the country and around the world who are really connecting with Christelle's message that this isn't necessarily just about inspiring African-American children and African-Americans in general. Christelle is really doing her part to be able to place a positive, an even more positive representation to Black people. You know, obviously taking the time to learn more about Christelle's work, she was actually inspired to become a children's author and write her books after her son came to her after the George Floyd tragedy several years ago. And he said, you know, Mommy, why is this happening? And she, as a mother, had to be able to let her son know why this was happening at this particular point in time. And during that point, especially where there was the police brutality and the race riots several years ago, African Americans were kind of getting a little bit of a bad rap. And throughout the course of history, in different ways, shapes, or forms, African Americans were given bad raps as well. You go back, you're very It's almost like it was yesterday when Officer Clemens, of course, on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he was the first African-American full-time character on a children's television program. And this is the time, around, it was the late 60s, where there was, African Americans couldn't be in the same swimming pools as white people. And so, that's when, Mr. Rogers in his own way said, enough is enough. I just think that that's hogwash. And he invited Officer Clemens to be able to be in the same pool, albeit a kiddie pool, as him, and to say, okay, you don't have your towel, that's fine, you can use my towel. So even again, Mr. Rogers and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, your program, David, really did its part even back then to be able to let children know that that African Americans are good people and that they can be trusted, and that some of these false representations are just what they are. They're false representations. So there's so much good that is found within the series, whether you're doing your part to simply be able to inspire your child to be able to have their a simple goal that they have, or even a long-term vision they can come to fruition. That's just one of the many things that you can find in 1 Flip, 2 Flip, 3 Flip, 4. And especially like if you want to be a gymnast, of course, we know that every 4 years there's the Summer Olympics, and we always want Team USA to go for the gold. And there's many women, there's many young girls, and there's many young boys that have the desire of hearing their anthem being called, whether you live in the United States, maybe you live in another country around the world. But to just put a bow on 1 Flip, 2 Flip, 3 Flip, 4, I really love what it is that you had shared. And of course, what's on the back of the book is to work hard to pursue something that you love. I think one of my favorite quotes, and I'm going to do my part to encapsulate it, it says, if you love what you do, it'll feel like you never have to work a day in the rest of your life.
I agree with that. I use that as my mantra, so to speak, that, I've worked for Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood since the late 60s. And I don't think I've ever worked a day in my life. And I was fortunate to find something that I love doing. And if people can do that, that's a blessing, I think, to find something you love to do. Now, on the other hand, not everybody looks at it that way. They look at a job as a job, and that's fine too. But for me, and I think what Crystal was saying, it's Christelle, right? I think I'm mispronouncing. So Christelle, pardon me for mispronouncing, but what Christelle is saying, the same thing. Find something you love to do and pursue it. So, and Too Young to What has the same theme to it. Now that is her 4th book, I believe, right?
This is the newest installment in Christelle's Inspired to Be series. And just one other brief thing that I wanted to mention as well about what this is one of the things that I'm always excited whenever we talk about children's books. It's like, oh, there's one more thing, or oh, there's one more thing. But if you remember when Ruby is stuck in the house on a rainy day with nothing to do, as you just talked about, David, it's all about mindset. You could wake up in the morning and you could stub your toe and say, oh, it's going to be a bad day. Or you can wake up and look outside the door, outside the window, I should say, and you could see it's raining. Thankfully, today here in San Diego, it's literally and figuratively a beautiful day in the neighborhood. No rain, no snow out here. But depending upon where you're at, you could look outdoors and it's raining or it's snowing, and you could just get so down about yourself. So this is why it's always best to be able to note the fact that even if your day is starting off kind of dull, or even though your external circumstances would want you to think that it's going to be a bad day or bad week, you can easily make the best of any kind of situation. But
sometimes not easily. Sometimes it comes a little more difficult, but you've got to do it.
Yes.
That's the point.
It definitely involves patience, persistence, and perseverance, just which again are many of the mantras found in 1 Flip, 2 Flip, 3 Flip, 4. And then since of course we're still sharing Christelle's books, the Inspired to Be series, we will let all of you know momentarily how you can get your copies of one flip, two flip, three flip, four, as soon as we are concluded with the second and final book on episode number 24 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, our 2-year anniversary special. Too Young to What? Again, this was just recently released by Christelle. One of the things that I really love as well about children's books is that the first thing that a little one sees, the first thing that a parent sees, the first thing that an educator sees is what's known as the cover art. So I really love the greenish white that Christelle uses in terms of the color of this book. In fact, when she was out here in San Diego this past weekend and she gave away bracelets to the little ones that were there, and one of the two colors there was the color, the back cover art of Too Young to What. She actually had bracelets that actually matched that, which I thought were really special and gave it an extra added touch.
Well, probably Brianna Young had something to do with that color too, because she was the illustrator, right? And this book too.
Yes.
So she probably had some influence in the color, and and as I said earlier, the illustrations in both books really fit the verse and fit the subject. It all sort of ties together. I like that, and I just think the books are very helpful for parents to introduce to their children, or librarians to feature maybe on a reading session, something like that. Some libraries have our new books this week, and they have all the new books that arrived. And I always loved that when I went to the library to see what new books have just come in. So I hope that Too Young to What is featured in a lot of libraries. Shall we jump into it?
We shall. Let's dive inside the pages of Too Young to What?
Well, in her introduction, as we just talked about, she writes that the book is to inspire children to pursue their dreams, no matter of their age. And I think that's an important statement. And probably I can, maybe other people can't, but I can remember hearing when I was a child, oh, you're too young for that, or wait till you're older, or oh, you'll learn that in school, something like that. And I'm sure a lot of kids hear that, and it's something well-meaning by the parent or caregiver. It's not something but I think Christelle puts it in better, says it better. So, the book begins by the reader meeting Dante. That's how you pronounce it, Dante, right? That's the young. He's sort of the host of the book in a way, because he opens it, and Dante's feeling a little stressed and wants to relate his feelings to the reader. Feelings about having to wait to do some things, and age doesn't matter. And Dante leads the reader to meeting the kids who have done some amazing things. And each child that the reader meets has made some accomplishment at a very young age or at a young age. Well, for instance, the first child we meet is, now you have to help me with this pronunciation, Paten?
I believe that's how it's pronounced.
Paten Jackson. She's a young poet, and these are all based on real people. We can talk about that later. She's a young poet who learned a poem at 3 years old and has been reciting, and I'm sure writing poems ever since. And at age 9, she received the Global Child Prodigy Award in Poetry. Now, how is that something for starting at 3 and just loving? It's just interesting how that poetry caught onto her, and I'm sure there were people encouraging her too, family members, teachers, preschool teachers, encouraging that. I think it takes some encouragement from others too. Well, then we meet, I think it's Michaela Ulmer, that's her name. And at age 4, she wanted to help the bees. And this is a serious problem now. The bees are in danger. So I'm glad that this is in the book. And she sold lemonade to make some money, but the lemonade had honey in it. That's the connection to the bees. And she's saving bees with that money. She founded a Me and the Bees lemonade. And it all came from starting a lemonade stand in the front of her house and selling lemonade, but it had honey in it.
That's right.
And this was all at 4 years old. And years later, she has a successful business. And she donates the money to organizations that help bees. Is that, that's a very important, they pollinate. Not only the honey, it's pollination, and it's really preservation of the wilds. Well, then we have Emanuela yes. Samuel. Am I doing this right? I want to make sure I get names right. Emanuela Samuel. At 5, she got her start as a child comedian. Now and she's from near Nigeria, and she got her start on YouTube. And I find that interesting. Not only is she's from Nigeria and a comedian, but it's YouTube. It's the new media that's reaching out. Now, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, in children's books, that wouldn't be referred to. But you can see how this is being incorporated now in books. And like it or not, it's here to stay. So let's make a good thing out of it. That's what Fred Rogers said when he started the television program. He said, television is here to stay. It's not going away. Let's make the best we can do with what we have. And he did. He made Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Well, and
also plus the fact we cannot forget that PR from the Heart's Neighborly Reviews Bookcast is also found on YouTube as well too. So just like us here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, we are taking a page from Emanuela and vice versa as well too, and we're very much embracing everything, as you had mentioned, David. So YouTube is helping spread the word about books, not only in our case, but Emanuela Samuel's case too. Well. And then there's Aaron Duncan. Now, he's 6 years old, and he was anxious to make music. He started with calypso, and then I think I'm pronouncing this right, soca music. Is that right? Soca? Yes.
S-O-C-A. He has been writing song after songs, and his songs are sort of a type of Afro-Caribbean music. And that's something, and he was starting this around 6 years old. And again, I just wonder where he picked up that love for music, somewhere along the way. And then there's Jaquil Jackson. At 5, he helped his aunt distribute food to the homeless. And he knew at 5 years old he wanted to do more. And I think, again, it goes back. Here's his aunt. And I'm sure he's following her good deeds. And she's encouraging him. She's inspiring him too. And he wanted to do more. And lo and behold, at 8 years old, he founded Project I Am, an organization that helps the homeless in Chicago. And this was all around 8 or 9 years old he did this. So these are very inspiring stories. Now, the next person is Ziana Oliphant. I believe that's Ziana. I hope I'm doing the justice to pronouncing your names. And at 9 years old, she spoke up for the rights of all. She made a speech that spoke out against violence, and she made a call for help at 9 years old. It's just does my heart good to hear some of these stories that at 9, you're never too young. And that goes through the whole book. Now, here's the next one. I think it's Naim, I believe.
Naim Hudson, correct.
Naim Hudson, at 10 years old, couldn't wait to spread self-love. He was teased about the shoes he wore. I guess they were different, or maybe they were beat up, but he got a lot of teasing about it. But he knew deep down somehow what should matter more. And that goes back to a song that Mr. Rogers wrote too. It reminds me, it's not the outsides of you, it's the inside that counts. And that's exactly what Naim did. He knew deep down that what mattered more. And you know what he is now? A motivational speaker. He's also known as King Non. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. And he's speaking spreads the word about self-love and confidence to children and their parents. Now, here's another one. At 11 years old, Kelvin Doe began to look for ways to fix things with all the technical experience that he has, his knowledge. And I'm sure some of that is the modern YouTube generation too. When he was younger, he was making batteries from acid, soda, and metal in a tin cup. And it's remarkable. And those batteries help power some of the neighborhood houses. He also built a community radio station out of recycled parts. And I guess he's a full-fledged engineer now, or should be, because that was when he was 11 years old. Oh, and winding up the two young examples is Jasmine Stewart. She just couldn't wait to cook on stage. She's a Master Chef Junior now, and at 12, she was the first African-American winner of Master Chef Junior. And the book ends with Dante King. He opened it up, Dante, and he introduced all the inspired children, and he can't wait to chase his dreams, it says. And he says towards the end of the book, what I think is one of the most important messages in the book. Here's what he says: I'll do my research and practice each day. I won't let age remain in my way. And that sort of sums up that whole book. And Christelle ends the story about Dante asking the reader if there is a dream that they would like to pursue. That's good. And maybe all of these stories would ignite an idea or a creative idea in a child who's reading the book or have the book read to them. Let me see. Oh, yes. And as a follow-up, at the end of the book, Christelle has included a list of children who inspired the book. All of the people we have mentioned and talked about, they're listed there, and there's some contact information, whether it's a website or an email or something. It's all there, so the reader could go in and find out more about the individual who inspired all these stories. Oh, and here's a fun fact that Christelle put in. Christelle was born and raised in Trinidad, just like Machel Montano. Now, Machel is the king of soca, which is sort of a Caribbean, Afro-Caribbean type of music. He began his music career at 7 years old, and around 10 years old, he released a recording called "Too Young to Soca." It became a big hit in his part of the world, but he was told he was too young to be a soca artist. But it was a big hit, but he pursued his dream and just recently celebrated 40 years as a musician. And that's what inspired Christelle. And to this day, he still has an inspired motivation. What he wants to do is to spread his soca music all over the world. He's still being inspired. And as I said, Machel was Christelle's inspiration, and in turn, her stories about the children and Too Young to What, she hopes will inspire the readers of the book to pursue their dreams and to remember this. And this is me. You are never too young to pursue your dreams. Speedy delivery.
I love that.
And that's true. And if you're 40 years old, if you're 50, you're never too young to inspire. Well, look at the artist Grandma Moses. She was in her 70s and 80s when she started to paint. That's an inspiration. That would be a good children's book too, in a way. To the story of Grandma Moses painting and became an international artist in her latter part of her life. So there are two books. Christelle, thank you for those. And I hope our viewers will go to their library. That's the first place I'd go to get the books. But you have more information about how to get all the books and some other ideas, right?
Absolutely. And I just wanted to share a few other brief reflections in addition to yours. And thank you for that wonderful and heartfelt share of Too Young to What. I think that we actually may have missed one of the children in the book. So just wanted to give
I miss one?
Little kudos. So that's okay, David. I got you covered. So Miles Brown. Brown, he was known as Baby Boogaloo, a talented actor, dancer, and rapper, and he landed his first movie role when he was 10 years old. At the age of 7, he couldn't wait to dance and act. He started with dance and then moved into acting, but he flexed both of his talents as well too.
Oh, you're right. Here, Miles, I apologize. Here you Then comes Miles Brown, I have on here. At 7 years old, he couldn't wait to dance and act. Thank you. I skipped over when I was explaining Afro-Caribbean music and down to the next one. But as you said, he got his first movie role at 7, and since has appeared in over 20 movies and television programs. So there you go, Miles. Miles Brown, 7 years old. Congratulations to you and speedy delivery. So thank you for. I wondered why I got through that so speedily.
There's so many stories, so many powerful stories within this book, and again, a few of my reflections as we begin to wind down our time. At the very end of the story, we go back to how we first started with Dante, and at the very end, it would be very easy for Dante to say, there's all these kids that I've just shared their messages with, and they've already done all these great things. How come I'm not where they are? And instead, Dante says, I cannot wait to chase my dreams. Now, isn't that great? I'll do my research and practice each day. I won't let age remain in my way. He was focused on playing the long game, so to speak. So it's very easy as an adult, for example. I know, when I graduated from high school and after years went on and I moved into college, there were friends of mine who maybe got their first big career break before I did. There were friends of mine who got married before. I'm still not married on my end of things. There are friends of mine that had their first child on their end of things. I still am not blessed to be a father yet, except a dog dad to little Forrest, of course. But I think this is a reinforcing thing. You just mentioned about Grandma Moses, for example. I go back shortly after the time when my grandmother passed away, I began to learn about the work of Louise Hay, who is the founder of Hay House, which is one of the largest spiritual, metaphysical, inspirational consciousness book publishing companies in the world. The late Dr. Wayne Dyer was published by Hay House. And I believe that she started Hay House, when she was in her 60s or her 70s. So in essence, starting a publishing company at that part of time in your life, one might think you'd have to be in your 20s to do it, or your 30s, or maybe your 40s. So I think it's important to kind of cover both aspects, where you're never too young and you're never too
old. You're right.
And I think that that's really, really, really important, because there's a lot of people I know that I give a lot of kudos to. My mom, she actually went back to school on her end of things. She took the time to raise myself and to raise my sister, and she went back to school. And I gave her a lot of credit then, and I still give her a lot of credit now, because again, it's always about doing your part to better your life. If for whatever reason, let's say the first 30 years of your life, you're maybe not necessarily proud of things, or you wish you could have done more, it's never too late to be able to pursue what it is that you want. This is why one of the main sources of inspiration, we hope, for all future children's authors that are out there, there's many people who have watched the bookcast over the past 2 years, David, who have said, okay, well, Christelle is doing this, or Matthew Cordell is writing and illustrating these books, or Adam Swain Ferguson, many of the authors who we featured, John Parra on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. If they can do it, you can do it as well too. And that's really, again, many of the premises of the inspired, to Be series, because we all need inspiration. If we didn't have any inspiration in any way, shape, or form, we would just be kind of all, floating out there, just being okay if it would be, raining outside, right? We need to do our part to be able to have those sources of inspiration in our lives so that we can push ourselves beyond our perceived limits, so to speak. And of course, as we saw from Too Young to What, there are so many children who are doing amazing things, and they need to be encouraged. You talked about that during 1 Flip, 2 Flip, 3 Flip, 4. The encouragement of our children right now is key so that they can be able to do something, whether it be at the age of 5, the age of 10, when they graduate from high school, when they graduate from college. All it takes is that little gentle reinforcement, and little ones will remember that as they move on within the next steps of the rest of their life. So again, we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars. You can head on over to Christelle's official website, ChristellePatterson.com, her first name, her last name.com. We've included that link below, in addition to her official Amazon page of Amazon.com. Is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing. You can leave 5-star reviews for 1 Flip, 2 Flip, 3 Flip, 4, and for Too Young to What. You can also purchase the second and third installments in Christelle's Inspired to Be series, I Am Different and Superheroes Here and There. I Am Different really encapsulates very beautifully the importance of embracing our uniqueness and really honoring our differences, because if everyone were the exact same, it'd be a pretty boring place to live in. And Superheroes Here and There. One of the things that we learned, especially coming out of the pandemic, and David, I know that we've talked about this on past editions of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, because I think we've had a couple of superhero themed books along the way, is that superheroes exist beyond the world of Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and Wonder Woman. We've seen, as the result of the pandemic, that, our doctors, our nurses, our grocery store workers, even just, a parent who's working 2 jobs to support their 2 children, they are a superhero.
Oh, yes.
In their own right. And you are a superhero. If you were just doing your part to be able to become a better version of yourself each and every day, you might not think it or realize it, but you too are a superhero in the process. So again, if you want to be able to learn more, enjoy more, read more, have all 4 books within Christelle's Inspired to Be series, again, you can head on over to Amazon.com. In addition to Christelle's official website as well, you can also head on over, if you are in the Sacramento, Southern California area, you can head on over to your local libraries, or if you live across the country as well and you check out your local libraries, and if the books are not available, you can of course connect with one of the children's librarians on staff and make a recommendation that they stock Christelle's Inspired to Be series. And of course, your favorite children's bookstores and independent bookstores. One of the many ways that you can also pledge your support for Christelle and other amazing children's authors that we have featured throughout the past 2 years on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast is if you go to your favorite independent or children's bookstore and they have their book, they have their books that we have been sharing over the past 2 years, wonderful. If not, you make that kind recommendation that they stock Christelle Patterson's Inspired to Be series, in addition to all of the other books that we have shared over the past 2 years. And little Forrest is waking up from a nap to remind us that he is giving 2 paws up for the Inspired to Be series. And it's interesting, when he's doing this, it looks like it's in the shape of a heart. He's giving 2 paws up and 1 big heart of love. Little Forrest absolutely loves the Inspired to Be series. I got to tell you, David, before we wrap up, and as we hear the trolley, we know that means that it is time to go. When I was at the Barnes & Noble in Encinitas this past weekend with Christelle, I met these 2 beautiful dogs, and the owner of the dogs had this little stroller for the dogs. And there was this company called PetRover.com that makes strollers for dogs. And it looked super comfortable. And I said, you know what? It really would have been nice to have little Forrest there at the event and to kind of just wheel him around in a little doggy stroller. So I think I'm going to get that for Little Forrest, because he actually, congratulations. Let's give a little round of applause to Little Forrest, by the way, because this guy right here actually graduated puppy training class. He just graduated actually on Valentine's Day. So it has been a wonderful February. So we're not only celebrating the anniversary of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood on public broadcasting, we're not only celebrating and honoring Black History Month, we're not only celebrating and honoring the anniversary of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, but we're celebrating Little Forrest graduating from puppy training class.
Quite a fabulous February.
Yes.
Well, maybe if you work hard enough, Forrest will be able to read one of the books. Then you really would have accomplished something.
I was just going to say, one of the favorite pastimes that Little Forrest and I are starting to enjoy now are reading children's books. One of the things that I'm so grateful for over these past 2 years, David, is that, these resources of care, these bookcast episodes that we've been putting out into the world, I can only imagine the good that it is making, especially when it comes to parents and grandparents who are reading to their little ones, their children, their grandchildren before bedtime. One of the greatest feelings is a little one, whether your favorite book is Mike the Tough Little Tugboat, or one of the Berenstein Bears, or Too Young to
Uncle Wiggly.
Or Uncle Wiggly, or 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip 4. The feeling that you feel when you're spending that quality time, that bonding experience with your mom, your dad, your older brother, your older sister, your grandmother, your grandfather. I'm just really, really, really grateful that we've been able to, do this over the past 2 years. And we still have many more magical trolley stops to come. But first things first, again, if these messages that we have shared, if you're feeling super inspired, and if you say, you know what, David and John, I can actually take on the world right now. You have that much inspiration in you. If you feel that now you have additional resources of care for your little ones to be able to inspire them to stay on track, to stay focused. If it's a long-term vision, if it's a short-term goal, they have it within them to be able to achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve, no matter where they're at in their life, no matter how young or how old that they are in the process. If anything, you just say, you know what, I really feel guided to be able to share these books and these messages that you've been sharing, David and John, to someone in need. We encourage you, if you haven't had the chance to do so, to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel and to share this very special trolley stop that has been episode number 24, which you have been enjoying, the 2-year anniversary edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. And we are super excited as well, too, because David and I, in literally less than 2 months, the trolley's going to be headed back from San Diego to Pittsburgh, and not virtually, not remotely. This is the real deal. The trolley's making a trip back to our friends and neighbors at the Center for Media Innovation in downtown Pittsburgh on the campus of Point Park University. David and I are going to be reconnecting in person to record the April and May editions of PR from the Heart's Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. So if you are a children's author and would like to be able to have your brand new children's book be shared on a forthcoming edition of PR from the Heart's Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, as we now enter into year 3 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, you know how to connect with us via our official website and social media platforms that you now see on screen. prfromtheheart.com, and of course Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at PR from the Heart. If you are, of course, a children's author and would love to learn more about how we can be of service to you at PR from the Heart, whether it be facilitating a featured television interview, whether it be facilitating a book media tour in a city of your choosing or cities of your choosing, just like Christelle did recently in San Diego and Los Angeles, or if you would like to be featured as a featured guest on PR from the Heart's Children's Book Spotlight series, where I interview the top award-winning and best-selling children's authors in the kidlit community. You can schedule your courtesy connection call by heading on over to our official website. That is prfromtheheart.com. Again, one final time, we encourage you to head over to, if you already haven't had the chance to do so, to Christelle's official website, ChristellPatterson.com. That is CRYSTEL patterson.com, or to head on over to amazon.com. If that is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can leave 5-star reviews for 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4, and for Too Young to What, in addition to purchasing your copies of the second and third installments in Christelle's Inspired to Be series, I Am Different and Superheroes Here and There. David, before we officially conclude this month's edition of the Bookcast, and before we look yonder to the month of March, sooner than we know it, spring will be finally here. Is there any parting shots that you have, any words that you would like to be able to share as we officially wrap up this celebration that is the 2-year anniversary edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast?
Yes, I think one of the most important things you can do with a book and a child is to read that book to the child. I think that they get so much from the contact, the support of the parents, that love that they'll interpret being there, and that can inspire them to read. That bonding that a parent and child can do through a book may in turn inspire them to want to read for the rest of their lives. And I hope that's true. Books will always be with us. We have internet, we have everything else, we have television, we have movies, but I think the books will always be with us. And there's nothing like sitting down, as far as I can remember, reading to my children with a good book and reading to your child. It was such a bonding experience for me. And they, especially our daughter, they grew up to be readers and appreciators. And the other two became more of an illustrator. So all of that was brought to them through the book, but it's the parent or the caregivers that can be the person that introduces children to books, and their love not only for the parent but the book, but it's a bonding. I hope that all made sense, but I just wanted to get that out.
No, I agree, David. And it really is, we're doing our part to raise the next generation of readers through PR from the Heart's Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. And I still just want to mention one last thing here before we hop aboard the trolley, is that, I remember that, a couple of there was one of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood's most poignant episodes where he visited Eric Carle. Of course, yes. Many people who love children's books are very familiar with his work, and he had more or less recently passed on. Fred was a strong supporter of reading. In fact, when I made one of the trolley stops out to the Fred Rogers Institute in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, the former Fred Rogers Center, now Fred Rogers Institute. And he actually, I believe it was in 1991, he had a visit with the American Library Association. So Fred really had a strong knack and a strong support for reading and for children's books, and we really hope that we are doing the neighborhood justice by continuing on that love of reading through the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast.
And just a quick addition to that comment is that every time we would be in a city doing an appearance or a taping or something, a different city, we did a lot of remotes and appearances. After Fred got settled into his hotel, the first thing he would do was look for the local bookstore. He would always go to a bookstore, and the first thing he did every morning when he got up was read. And he had a love for reading. That's why it was so important to him to stress that on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And I hope, in turn, the television reached a lot of the people in there now in their 50s, the first wave of the viewers. And I hope that they caught it. And one more, attitudes are caught, not taught. If you love doing something in front of children, they'll catch your love for that. And that's why I go back to saying reading a book to the children and people you love is very important. So there you go.
Agreed. This has been such a magical trolley stop, and there are so many more And Little Forest, would you like to say goodbye as we begin to wrap up episode number 24, the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, our 2-year anniversary celebration? He's been such a bundle of love to bring in, and we are all looking forward to the beginning of year 3 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast in episode number 25, the start of spring, the return to the Center for Media Innovation in downtown Pittsburgh at Point Park University. And sooner than we know it, it's going to be the summer reading season once again. So, of course, before we conclude episode number 24, the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, we, of course, want to give a little tip of the cap to, of course, we've mentioned his name several times, the beloved Mr. Rogers. In his own way, shape, and form, in his own private numerology, he really resonated with 3 numbers throughout the course of his natural adult life. That was how much he weighed. Go figure. Mr. Rogers weighed 143 pounds for the majority of his natural adult life. And really, if you look at it from this perspective, there's 1 letter in I, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. And Fred really reminded us that through the neighborhood, through his talks, whether it be college commencement speeches, whether it be at schools, whether it be with just, connecting with children in his own way along his journey, he reminded all of us of our inherent worth and value, and that we're loved and we're special just the way that we are. So as David has been kind to be able to join us over these past 2 years on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, this is our reminder, little tip of the cap to Mr. Rogers. We are reminding you of your inherent worth and your inherent value and our favorite 3 numbers here on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. There's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, 3 letters in you. That is our reminder that you are loved, you are special, you are whole, you are healthy, you are complete, that we like you, that we love you just the way that you are in the process. And of course, again, one last time, if you missed David Newell's special sit-down conversation with Shannon McNeil on KGET 17, Studio 17, one of the most heartfelt programs across the country that we work with here at PR from the Heart. A really, really, really beautiful interview looking back on 55 years of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and the 15th anniversary of David's documentary, Speedy Delivery. You can head on over to PR from the Heart's official social media platforms at PR from the Heart and enjoy that. But of course, we want to thank you for your continued support of PR from the Heart and for the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. Your support over these past 2 years has been undeniable and has been truly appreciated on so many levels. We want to thank you for your continued support of children's authors and illustrators all across the country and all around the world, just like Christelle, who are doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. For the pillars of our community, local libraries, children's and independent bookstores, and above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. So again, for David Newell, for myself, John Massalonis, and for Little Forest, thank you for spending some quality time with us here in our neighborhood as we celebrate 2 years, 24 episodes of the official book review program here at PR from the Heart, the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. We look forward to many more magical trolley stops to come. Again, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yay.